Afternoon, I'm Khaki Walton. Checking on the Arts is made possible by contributing listeners to Dixon Gallery and Gardens and the Pink Palace Museum. The Annesdale Park Gallery in Midtown at 1290 Peabody presents Primal Rhythms, an exhibition featuring abstract paintings by Jennifer Bowman and also Primal Figures by Sandy Starbird. That exhibit opens this Friday. They'll have a reception Friday night from 6 to 8, and the work will be on view through June the 18th. David Hasty is the owner of Annesdale Park Gallery. He joins me this afternoon, and he's brought both of the artists with him. It's nice to have you all in the studio today.
Good to be here.
Well, we're going to start with you, Jennifer, because your name is first on the postcard, so
Okay.
you get to go first. Your abstract paintings I just love, and I went to your website, and there's a quote that you have that I just thought was terrific. It says, when a piece of art speaks to you, it's reflecting a chapter of your soul's past.
Yes.
I love that.
Thank you.
I want to talk about how you create your work, because I know a lot of it's just experimentation.
It is.
What's your process like?
Well, I start out with a blank canvas, and I use the molding paste as a texture. And while that's wet, I go about kind of applying the coffee and varnish and several other mixed mediums that kind of give it the overall composition that I'm going for. Mm-hmm. And then after that is several days of applying like acrylic and drying and applying and drying. So it's quite the process over a long period of time.
How long does one piece take you? I know they're all different, but would you say from start to finish something could take you up to 3 months or something?
It varies. No, not 3 months, but I would say a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. I can get a piece to completion.
I'm glad that you mentioned the coffee, because that was fascinating to me. And you mainly work in earth tones. I did see one of your pieces in the exhibit at David's Gallery has more green tones and maybe a little muted red sort of a color, but mostly it's earth tones. And so when did you decide one day, I'm going to try coffee and see what that does?
Well, I had seen a piece done that had coffee in it, and I'm a very curious person, so I thought, well, I'm going to try that. And I'm addicted to my coffee in the morning, and I'm addicted to my coffee in the studio, so I stuck with it.
Well, the way that your paintings look, and they are abstract, no question about it, but there were a couple of them that almost looked like landscapes from some faraway planet.
I get told that.
Do
yes.
you? And there are things hovering above these images that are higher up on the canvas, and you could think of them as maybe being clouds or maybe even being spaceships. I was just seeing all sorts of things in that piece this morning.
Yeah, I love when I hear what people see in them, because that's where I feel like the quote comes in, because I just do the work, but when someone tells me what they see, I feel like more like it's their story. It's each person who sees it. It comes from their history. It comes from their story, their life story, not mine.
Yeah. So everything, it's an extensive prep process, but then again, everything else seems to sort of happen organically. You start with something, but you don't necessarily know how it's going to finish. No. And I think that's the exciting part of the whole thing.
Oh, it is. It's exciting for me even, especially when I experiment and see a technique or a process that I've just started, see it turn out differently or better. Sometimes it's worse and I cast it aside, but if it's something that I like the way it turned out, then that falls over into the next piece, and so on and so forth.
I read that you said you're a very nostalgic person, and I think it's interesting. I read an article about you in a Nashville publication. And
Nashville Arts.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was struck by how strange it is when inspiration can come to us. Like you're in the back of a truck at a stoplight and you get inspired by looking at this bumper on a truck.
Yes. I tend to feel like I like finding the beauty in not the obvious images, like rust and peeling paint, something that isn't necessarily the prettiest of beauty. I like that. I like trying to capture that.
Well, your pieces are rustic and there's an ephemeral quality about some of them. I love it. And I saw this in your bio too. And I get sucked into this channel every weekend. HGTV. I love it. But your work's been featured on some HGTV programming.
It has.
So what shows were you on?
It was a design show. Pearson Company was a design company that I had work in, and they had I think 1 or 2 seasons of an HGTV show, and a few of my pieces were placed in, let's see, his name was Taylor York. He's of the band Paramore.
Oh, okay.
And he had a couple of pieces, and his I think it was a condo was featured on that show.
That's really cool because I thought, oh, was this one of the houses that they like gutted and rebuilt, and then your pieces were in the final product or something?
No, it was more like a design. It was more like a design show.
Well, that's so neat that you had that opportunity. So you live in Kentucky. Are you close to Nashville?
Yes, I'm about an hour away, but I lived in Nashville for 12 years.
Well, you were you are from Kentucky now. Were you born there too?
Yes.
Well, Sandy was also born in Kentucky. She's moved around a lot. Sandy Starbird has primal figures in the exhibit Primal Rhythms. That's what we're talking about this afternoon. That exhibit opens this Friday with a reception from 6 to 8, and Jennifer's abstract paintings will be on view, and Sandy's primal figures will be on view there through June the 18th. So I want to talk about your work next, and you've even brought an example with you, Sandy, and I'm so glad that you did. You moved around to Florida and Arizona and California, and now you're living in Arkansas. And I was reading about when you grew up, and you were so fortunate because you had some relatives that really inspired you to become a creative person.
Well, I think that's true. It is subtle in a way because my mom was sewing all the time when I was little. She made all of our clothes. She took me to fabric stores when I was not tall enough to even see what was in the racks. My job was ironing. That was my household chore. So I have a long-time relationship with fabric. I like taking fabrics that have been used. I think in terms of the figures, what I appreciate is that fabric is a man-made item. It does not exist without us. So when you take that and you make the figures out of it, then you are creating something that where the stories come out, they are human stories. They are human in the sense that they tap into ancient understanding of who we are. I'm not making political figures here. I'm making a sort of a basic understanding of what we're about. What I like about Jennifer's work in mind is I feel like she's creating sacred spaces. The kind of work that I make are individuals who might live in those spaces.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a neat way of looking at it. Well, I know that you worked at an art gallery in Tucson, Arizona for a while, and you were exposed to a lot of folk art. So did that inform your creative process a lot, or inform your work a lot?
Oh yeah, Berta Wright Gallery Shop. I've been interested in mythology and folklore and metaphysical manifestations of truth most of my life. What was added to that, how it was enriched by working for Berta Wright Galleries, is that she had connections all over the world. She was part of the American Crafts Council, so she had gone all over the world to all of their meetings. I would open boxes from Kenya, I would open boxes from, Egypt. That's what came in the back door. So I'm touching these things all the time, and you get a whole different sense of something when you can touch it than if you look at a picture. She was really, really an interesting lady, too, and had accepted my work already because she had contemporary arts as well before they had an opening and I needed the money, so I went to work for her. But I was really, it was a magic thing. It was really, I learned a lot. She loved fabric. I learned from her to love mudcloth from Mali. It was a very enriching experience. My husband was there to go to school. He was working on his doctorate, but I was learning a lot too.
Well, tell us about the piece that you brought with you today.
This is difficult to do on the radio. This piece is called Ancient Songs. It is a figure that has a leaf-shaped clay face. There are radiating lines that are drawn into it. It's multi-layered in that it has an underneath fabric, but then it has a sheer fabric over the top. So I've done stitching that enhance the pattern underneath. He stands really strong on two legs, and he has a staff, but he also has some really beautiful tendrils of grapevine sticking out the top of his head. And he looks ready for most anything. The words, and I cannot remember the quote, but the words have to do with hearing the ancient songs that come out from underneath the forest. So this is who he is.
Well, when I was reading about you, I know that you've dealt with adversity a few times in your life, and I was wondering if your art has been sort of a therapy for you to get past some hard times.
I can't think of any hard times, so I must have gotten past it, and very likely it had to do with my artwork.
Good.
Because, in fact, when I go into my studio and I have all kinds of bags of things that should go together, and hopefully I live long enough to work with them all. But I think probably any artist in their studio slips totally away from whatever might be adversity in their life. That's why we like to go there. But you also, having slipped into that space, you come back with something. I think a lot of times I am making pieces that relate to any difficulties I may have. But I also know after 30 years of doing it that I am making pieces for people I haven't even met. And once I meet them, there are pieces I do not sell. There are pieces I keep for years, but then there comes a point where I'm ready to let them go. And it will not be long before someone will come along and they can tell me exactly why that piece now belongs to them.
What it means to them, just the visceral reaction they get when they look at it.
Sometimes it has nothing to do with the reason I had to make it. And that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because I will probably have looked at it again and thought, why did I do that? Made changes. Now it does relate to what it is that they need assistance of dealing with.
Yeah. Well, David, we're going to slide the microphone over to you, and I was going to ask you what inspired you to feature Jennifer and Sandy's work together. Was it sort of like what Sandy said?
No, I didn't put that much thought into it. I wish I could say that I did, but I have to say Jennifer was the first person that I asked to be in the gallery.
Oh, wow.
She and Matthew have known each other for a long time, and we were taking a trip up to Crystal Bridges, and they were on the phone together, and all the way up there, I was talking to Matthew about this art gallery idea, and so Jennifer got invited to be in the gallery before anybody else did. And I set up this exhibit period with her a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And then Sandy, I met accidentally. From Dolores Justice's gallery, I met Robin Horn. She sent me to Doug Stowe to get some incredible boxes that he makes. I had to give Doug a little bit of time to figure out what he wanted to charge for these boxes, and I happened into a gallery in Eureka Springs and found a clay sculpture that I just absolutely loved. And it was done by Sandy's husband, who had unfortunately died just the week or so previous to that. And I put a down payment on it, and then when I went back to finish paying for it and pick it up, the gallery owner put me in touch with Sandy, and we just hit it off. and so when I was talking to Sandy about it, was kind of like she was going to do some, maybe she would do one or two. We would just see how it goes. Uh-huh. So it wasn't just immediate that she was going to do the work or that she was going to put it in the gallery. And so when she finally had gotten enough done that she thought, okay, this would be a good group to bring down, I had to decide where to put her. Everything was filled up in the springtime, and I thought that the work would go well together.
Well, it does. You came up. I
I
guess.
can't give you any good reasons for that.
No, it was
just
it was
I
a
just
pragmatic.
thought.
It was a pragmatic businessman standpoint.
Yes, no, yes, it was, but it was also it's a lot of emotion and an appreciation of the work
Right.
and the complementarity of it
Yeah.
to me. So that's kind of how it came about.
Well, I hope everybody comes out to the opening reception. It's this Friday from 6 to 8. And if you've never been to the gallery, it's in Midtown on Peabody. It's a little ways down from Bontai. It's this beautiful Victorian home that's been renovated. And it's on the north side of Peabody at 1290. And then you can also go get a little advanced look if you want to and go to the website, which is theAnnesdaleParkGallery.com. You can also call David at 901-208-6451. You can see more of Jennifer Bowman's work at her website, JenniferBowmanFineArt.com, and Sandy Starbird's on Facebook, and she doesn't mind if you go take a look at her Facebook page. That's what she told me anyway, so I think we're all cool there. But this is a great exhibit. I've really enjoyed. I've seen the work that you sent me on my email, but I can't wait to see it in person. And see all the different textures of your paintings and just to see some of your other figures up close because I really enjoyed everything. It's called Primal Rhythms. And again, that opens this Friday with a reception from 6 to 8. You can see Jennifer and Sandy's work through June the 18th. David Hasty, the owner of Annesdale Park Gallery, Jennifer Bowman, and Sandy Starbird, all my guests this afternoon. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and I hope you're not so busy that you can't come out on Friday night. You're a busy lady.
No, I'm just a tired lady at the end of the week, but I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
Okay.